Performance-enhancing drugs have hit MMA like an epidemic, with fighters taking anything they can to gain that extra advantage. In 2014, Nevada outright banned the use of testosterone, and other commissions followed suit. But even with increased penalties, fighters are still failing drug tests. These are the top 10 testosterone busts in MMA.
Antonio Silva.
Antonio Bigfoot Silva failed a post-fight drug test in 2013. Silva tested positive for elevated testosterone and was suspended for 9 months. The UFC also took away Silva's $50,000 win bonus and gave it to his opponent. Silva, who suffers from gigantism, claimed he was using the TRT to treat the disease and that his testosterone levels were so low he was actually lactating.
Gross.
Bryan Bowles.
Bryan Bowles tested positive for elevated testosterone levels after his TKO loss to George Roop in 2013. Bowles' testosterone to epitestosterone ratio was 20-1, well above Nevada's allowed limit of 6-1.
My body is healthy as it's ever been.
Taking, I don't know, some kind of supplement that this doesn't keep happening to you?
You know, I don't think there's a supplement you can take.
He was suspended for 9 months and fined $5,700. Earlier this year, Bowles was arrested on 6 felony charges involving marijuana, methamphetamine, drug packaging materials, and possession of a firearm.
Nate Marquardt.
Nate Marquardt was set to face Rick Story at UFC on Versus in 2011. Marquardt was pulled from the fight after failing his pre-fight drug screening and later admitted to using testosterone replacement therapy.
Came back and said that I had low testosterone. He, he recommended for me to go on hormone replacement therapy.
Marquardt was immediately fired by Dana White.
Nate's done. I'm done with Nate.
Marquardt has also tested positive for banned substances in the past. After his UFC debut in 2005, he tested positive for nandrolone, an anabolic steroid.
Gilbert Melendez.
Gilbert Melendez, a 13-year veteran of MMA, tested positive after losing to Eddie Alvarez at UFC 188. The UFC issued a press release stating, Gilbert Melendez tested positive for exogenous origin of testosterone metabolites. Melendez wasn't fined, but was suspended for 1 year and responded to the failed tests stating, I did not inject anything, but I am responsible and accept the consequences for the results.
Rousimar Palhares.
Rousimar Palhares has been fired from 2 different MMA organizations. The UFC fired him for holding submissions for too long and for his failed 2012 drug test. After getting knocked out by Hector Lombard at UFC on FX, he failed his post-fight drug test due to elevated testosterone. He was subsequently suspended for 9 months with no fine.
You're going to cut him. This is it. You're saying here right now on the record, not just a suspension, he's done.
He's done.
John Fitch.
John Fitch has always been critical of TRT users. In 2013, he stated in an interview that TRT is for people who have abused steroids in the past, and that it is for the weaker-minded. So it came as a surprise when it was announced Fitch had failed a pre-fight drug test due to elevated testosterone levels.
I apologize to everybody when I said that John Fitch would never piss hot. When John Fitch pissed hot, I found out that Santa Claus wasn't real.
Fitch was fined $2,500 and suspended for 9 months.
He's got him, it's over.
Alexander Shlemenko.
Alexander Shlemenko fought Melvin Manhoff at Bellator 133, winning by knockout.
Oh, it hurt him! That's it! Speaking of the knockout, and there it is!
But after the fight, he failed his post-fight drug test. The allowable ratio of testosterone in California is 4-1. Shlemenko had levels of 50-1. Shlemenko was fined $10,000 and suspended for 3 years, but objected to the decision and plans to sue the California Commission.
Alistair Overeem.
Alistair Overeem has been on the PED radar ever since he had a sudden gain in muscle mass before coming to the UFC. Overeem used to fight in Pride at 205 pounds and now fights in the UFC at 260 pounds. Many attribute the 60 pounds of muscle gain to performance-enhancing drugs, but Overeem has never tested positive for steroids. But in 2012, he tested positive for elevated testosterone. The allowable ratio for testosterone in Nevada is 6-1, and Overeem tested at 14-1. He was suspended for 9 months, but did not receive a fine.
Chael Sonnen.
Chael Sonnen failed his post-fight drug test after losing to Anderson Silva at UFC 117. With levels 4 times the allowed limit, the California Athletic Commission suspended Sonnen for 1 year, but Sonnen appealed the decision, claiming he was suffering from hypogonadism and needed the testosterone for health reasons. His suspension was reduced to 6 months due to the appeal, but tested positive for banned substances once again in 2014.
Obviously, you're very familiar with it. You tested with as much testosterone as an elephant when you fought Anderson Silva.
Sonnen tested positive for anastrozole, clomiphene, human growth hormone, EPO, and HCG. Sonnen was suspended for 2 years and announced his retirement from MMA.
I am guilty.
Vitor Belfort.
Vitor Belfort's first signs of testosterone abuse came from a drug test ahead of his fight with John Jones at UFC 152. Belfort's testosterone levels were suspiciously high, but the results were kept private until recently. Vitor claims he has a naturally low testosterone and needs the treatment. One of the main causes for low testosterone in athletes is past steroid abuse, and Vitor failed a drug test for anabolic steroids in 2006.
What is your reaction to these accusations?
You know, I was starting my treatment, and I had approval of my doctor and with the UFC.
I'm 10 years younger than him, and he's got a way higher testosterone level. This guy's still cheating. I'm going to make him pay for it tomorrow night.
In your opinion, how big of an issue are PEDs in mixed martial arts?
I don't think it's as big of an issue as everybody's making it out to be, yeah.
Honorable mentions.
Robert Drysdale failed out of a competition test for testosterone and was denied a license to fight in 2013. 1 year later, Drysdale tested positive again after his win over Keith Barish. He was suspended for 1 year and fined 33% of his fight purse.
So to me, anything that had to do with strategy, figuring ways out to beat your opponent with intelligence versus brute strength, that's something that attracted me.
Ben Rothwell was suspended for 9 months for elevated testosterone. Rothwell responded, stating he was diagnosed with hypogonadism caused by a car crash that left him with severe head trauma and in a coma. Popeye failed his post-fight drug test after defeating Bluto at Big Fight Tonight. He blamed the failed test on tainted spinach given to him by his trainer. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe.